Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and once again, I got a great show. This one's for you animation fans out there, and even if you're not an animation fan, this is something um, I think you're going to really enjoy. I'm going to bring a guest on in a moment, but we're going to start with the trailer um, to the restoration of the films. It's a restored, it's the restored films of George Pal, the Puppetoon animations he did. So let me share the screen. Let us check out this great trailer here. I've watched it a few times now. All right, I'm going to give it full screen.
Announcing the return of the Puppetoons. Before he made the time machine in the War of the Worlds, Oscar winner George Pal made Puppetoons, dazzling stop-motion animated shorts that astounded the world. Now, Puppetoons not seen in generations are back, fully restored from their original Technicolor negatives. So journey back to that time of magic and wonder with special appearances by Bugs Bunny and Superman. The Puppetoon Movie Volume 2 is a release that's got everybody excited. Order yours today at puppetoon.net.
All right, guys. So um, that was exciting for me. I'm looking forward to it. I do plan on purchasing the DVD. Um, but let's bring on the man responsible for keeping George Pal's work alive, restoring it, and it is Arnold Leibovit. Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
how are
can you
you?
hear me? What you
Yeah,
okay, cool,
yeah.
cool. Now I didn't give you your total credits. I forgot to. You're a producer, you're a director, you're a writer, right? You've done a bunch of stuff. You've been in the film industry for how long now?
A lifetime.
A lifetime. And you've done a lot of interesting stuff, but your work on George Pal has his work is been a primary focus for you for many years, correct?
It is since I
Yeah.
met him back in the 19 late 1970s, which dates me, of course. But yeah, I've been at it for a long time, and when no one had done anything about George, and after because when I grew up, I was like a matinee kid watching films, and when I think The Time Machine was the film that really grabbed me when I was 12 years old, and of course I never dreamed I'd meet George years later. But meeting George was like bringing back all those memories as a kid, going to matinees, seeing films when I was a kid. It only cost 35 cents to see a movie back then. When I was growing up,
Wow.
it's 35 cents to see The Time Machine. I saw it at the Carib Theater in Miami. It was pretty vivid for me because I grew up seeing a lot of these films when I was a kid, and I'd spent the whole day in a movie theater.
Yeah.
That's the generation I come from.
Yeah.
So whether it was The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Ray Harryhausen, or it was Walt Disney, uh, I spent my early years in movie theaters watching films, and I never dreamed that it would all coalesce when I got older, that I ended up meeting a lot of these people, and then dedicating a great deal of my life to George Pal. But with meeting him was brought back all those memories that I had for him as a kid, and really couldn't believe it. Really, then when he passed away, of course, it struck me pretty hard. And I talked to Mrs. Pal, and I told her we should do something for him, a tribute. And that led to a film I made about his life. And that was the beginning of what started to me to be I guess, the life-changing thing in my life, really.
Mhm.
And all of these things have followed over the past four decades or so. And that's where we are today. So it's a lot. I'm condensing it into a small section. It's a lot.
It,
You know what I
it's
mean?
okay. We're probably going to expand on obviously certain areas. Um, for those who are new to George Pal's work, can you tell us a little bit about who he is and the type of stuff that he did?
Well, he was Hungarian,
Hmm.
which I'm half Hungarian from my grandmother's side. I didn't realize the connection until years later.
Hmm.
And he was in Szogled, Hungary, and then he lived in Budapest. And he studied to be an architect, which led to drawings and cartooning and animation from Europe. So he was very well known in Europe as, in fact, he was called the Walt Disney of Europe at the time. He made a lot of these films that were story films as commercials for a lot of advertising companies.
Hmm.
And most of the film was a story, in his own delightful, charming way, doing stop motion animation, and a lot of them were cell animation. And the commercial part was like a tiny part of the film. The rest of it was like a regular animation film. They were so popular that he made one after the other. He made dozens of these things.
Yeah.
And he set up the first dimensional cartoon studio, active cartoon studio in Europe. It was in the Netherlands. And then that went on for a number of years. And eventually he came to the United States. Paramount offered him a deal to make Puppetoons at the studio. And for another decade, he was doing Puppetoons at Paramount. And so he had been doing innovative stop motion animation, the first of its kind that no one had ever seen before, for years and years ago. Before most people today, it seems more common, but George was the innovator. He's the one that basically started an industry doing this,
Yeah.
and a lot of people that worked in Hollywood at the various animation studios, like Disney and Walter Lantz, who was a close friend of his, and uh, Leon Schlesinger at Warner Brothers and the other studios, they helped contribute artists to him to work on the Puppetoons. So for Puppetoon 2, the one we just saw the trailer for, Bugs Bunny appears, which was a first. It never happened before, where Bugs was loaned to George to use for Puppetoon. Warner's never did that. Superman was loaned out from DC Comics at the time, which never happened before. Hi, I see Ed Diffenbach. Hi, Ed. How are you? Nice to see you. Um, I a lot of, like I say, a lot of well-known artists came and worked at the Puppetoons.
Yeah.
Of course, Robert McKimson did Bugs Bunny. He was the greatest of the Bugs Bunny artists,
Hmm.
and he did the sequence in Jasper Goes Hunting, which is on Puppetoon 2. A lot of the viewers tonight that are watching, many of them have it, and they certainly know. There's Ed is one of them,
Yeah.
and uh, it was another great artist that Disney loaned over to George, which was Fred Moore, who was the greatest of the Disney animating character animators. And of course, he created all the dwarves in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He was well known for creating Mickey Mouse, the look that we love of Mickey, which is the Sorcerer's Apprentice. That
Yeah.
was his Mickey. He did many of the animated films. He's very well known, very, very highly regarded animator. Anyway, he did two of the characters for George that are in the series, which are Punchy and Judy.
Okay.
So you'll see one of them in Puppetoon 2. And in the next one we're doing now, the restoration, is another Punchy and Judy that Fred did. And but there's a list of people. I mean, Willis O'Brien, who did King Kong, worked at the studio. Ray Harryhausen got his first job doing Puppetoons for George in Hollywood. Hi, Mike. And he was, I mean, Ray learned so much from George, and they knew each other for years. Of course, the way the story goes for me is all the heroes that I grew up with watching, whether it was Ray's films or other filmmakers, I ended up meeting and kind of fulfilling a life dream, working with these people and knowing them personally.
Yeah.
Uh, Not to mention having met Walt Disney when I was 12 years old, of course, at Disneyland. That was a life-changing moment for me. And Disney studios have been very, very helpful over the years for my projects because
Great.
the animators were very influenced by the Puppetoons, and Walt himself was was enamored by George's work, and it influenced the Walt Disney Studio.
It's interesting how, unfortunately, George Pal isn't as well known as someone like Walt Disney or a Bugs Bunny cartoon or whatever, but how his work influenced, and the animators worked for him too, like how this stuff really inspired all these generations. Now, I remember talking to you last year, learning more about George Pal. After you were telling me, I looked back at some of the stuff I learned in some books, notes I've taken, and his name did appear. Like, so I've heard about him, but it wasn't really brought to my attention until I started talking to you last year. And I've learned so much more about him. I hope I remember a lot of this stuff because I did do some reading. I watched, some YouTube videos. Whatever I could find, I really, I absorbed because those guys. If the guys that influenced me were influenced by him, I need to know what influenced them. Like, that's how I feel as an artist. I just want that. Same thing in comics. When I look at a comic artist, yeah, I might like a modern day artist, or even someone who was popular in the 80s or whatever. But I'm going back and looking at like Hal Foster's work and Alex Raymond's work, who I know inspired the people that I grew up loving.
That's
So I
right.
always go back to look at the people who inspired my who are my inspirations.
And of course, the thing about PAL, for the people that are watching, I don't know how many people are online to see this, but
Mhm.
PAL went on to do, after the Puppetoons, of course,
Mhm.
who a great innovator of special effects. He ended up doing some of the great science fiction motion pictures of the 1950s. His story is somewhat of an epic story.
Mhm.
Uh, and he went from Puppetoon animation to making films like The Time Machine, The War of the Worlds, Destination Moon, When Worlds Collide, a whole series of science
Yeah.
fiction films that were epic films of the day.
Yeah.
Powell was making epic science fiction movies. He really started the trend. They became the seminal movies of the 1950s when I was growing up. And he really was the George Lucas and Steven Spielberg of his day.
Yeah.
When I was seeing films, I mean, his films were big. They were in Technicolor. They were large scale. They were epic in nature, um, and so they had a great impact in that early period.
Yeah.
And of course, we all grew up. Me being one of thousands of people that became writers and directors and artists, whether it was Spielberg or Lucas or Gene Roddenberry, who was a friend who he influenced on start making Star Trek, or there's so many stories of the PAL legacy, and they all grew up on George, on what he did, and it influenced them. I call it the ripple effect, like throwing a little pebble in a pond and having it ripple out. George was sort of the beginning of the ripple. He threw his little pebble of creativity into the world,
Yeah.
and it spread out amongst the writers and directors and artists that have come all the way through till today. And it's a tremendous legacy. I mean, that he became this great inspiration to
Yeah.
so many, many, many people.
Yeah.
Uh, it's very gratifying when I hear people talk because, in many ways, it's almost a revelation. And when you see the Puppetoons, right, this is certainly my contribution is to try to restore these, which I'm doing.
Yeah.
For people that haven't seen them before, when you see what he did, the style he did, and what the detail is, which we can get into, it's as I said, it's a revelation for people.
Well, you were mentioning detail. I was going to bring it up how, yeah, he's a great, great animator, great director, things like that. But just he carved all that stuff out of wood. I mean, just as a craftsman, that just goes to show the skill and level. Because last time we talked, I think you mentioned, did he create the removable parts?
Replacement figure puppet.
Replace, yeah, for the puppet.
It's
So
called the series puppet. And
yeah,
his real contribution was the replacement figure puppet, meaning to say, you know, uh, he created a series of heads and legs and body parts that were replaced every frame of film.
yeah,
So it's inconceivable to do today, but that was sort of his idea. The way the story goes is he was doing animation, cell animation, because he was an artist. He could draw. He was a craftsman. Man, he could do almost anything, really.
yeah,
And he said he was so bored drawing. Not good for the animators to hear this, but he was so bored drawing, he wanted to do something different. So he was playing around with a cigarette. He smoked at that time. He had a cigarette, and he came up with the idea of animating cigarettes. He said because he had a commercial to do for the Osterholz. It's one of the big cigarette companies, Overstalls, and he told the sponsor, "What if you think if we use your own cigarettes instead of animating them? I'll have them on the screen, and you can see the trademark on every cigarette." And the sponsors love that idea. So he started to animate cigarettes to music. And eventually he put heads on them, mouths so they could talk, legs so they could walk. He basically put the flat cartoon into 3 dimension using stop motion animation. And that was one of his contributions. He wasn't the inventor of it, but he came up with a style of doing it that no one had done before. And when you see the realization of what they look like on some of these early films and later films, it's an astonishment to realize that every frame is not all hand carved, by the way. There's a lot of lathe work done as well, but they're wood puppets, sometimes hundreds or thousands of them, and they're replaced frame by frame. The heads, the mouths, the eyes, the lip, everything is
yeah,
replaced. So when you look at it, and what's great about having the DVDs or the Blu-ray is you can stop it frame by frame, which you could never do before, and you can see it. And it's for the animators to have it, to be able to stop it and watch it. It's like, oh my God, when you
you know,
realize what's involved in the work to animate it in real time, in Technicolor, no less,
yeah,
is pretty extraordinary.
it sounds. I mean, it looks amazing. Everything I've ever seen looks great. Um, Now, one of the things I remember reading, and I believe it was one of the links you sent me. I just remember reading it the other day, or maybe this morning. I don't remember when it was, but he referred to his movies sometimes as kind of was it trick animation or trick photography, which led into the creation of special effects in films.
Exactly. Trick
Um,
films, they were called
yeah,
trick
trick
films.
films. That's the term he
They're
used.
called trick
Yes.
films. As people
Yeah.
would always say, how is that done?
Yeah.
They would go, remember in the 1940s well, actually he started showing in the 1930s and the 1940s, but at that time there wasn't really anything quite like it before. When he came to the United States, there was nothing like it. So you're watching a feature, whether it's you come up with a name of any movie during the 1940s, and then there would be a puppetoon, and it would be the audiences were dazzled by it. They were seeing 3 dimensional animation. It was shocking for people to see, and it was so beautiful and so beautifully done. It certainly gave the attention for these films, and of course, it won an Academy Award in 1944. He won an Academy Award for the creation of the puppetoons. 7 or 8 of them were nominated for Academy Awards. But that's a piece of the George Powell legacy. It goes on into his feature world as well.
Yeah.
So he did know special effects, as you said.
Yeah.
It's his understanding of special effects that allowed him to go and be accepted by the studios to give him the permission or to allow him to make these feature films. because nobody knew how to make them. Nobody knew how to tell time travel, for instance. They go,
Yeah.
how are you going to tell time travel? It was George who came up with the idea of stop time-lapse photography and stop motion animation to tell the story of traveling through time, which is used today. And so he was able to educate an industry that really didn't know much about this. It wasn't their thing. It wasn't their bailiwick as it is today. It's like so common. At that time, they were doing westerns and musicals and dramas, and the kind of movies that George was making was foreign to studio executives in the industry. They didn't know anything about it. And George was the first he was a great innovator that got them thinking about these new ideas, and special effects was a big part of it. Some of the techniques he created or he designed led to what we have today in special effect work. There isn't anyone working in the industry that doesn't know who George Pal is and what his influence was. And I hear from everyone in the world about it. So it's quite significant.
Yeah, no, that's great. You were just, I was listening to you, and I had this question just popped in my head, but it just popped out. It was about the special effects that he was creating. Oh, I know. Do you have it? Do you have anywhere, like in any of the YouTube videos or something you talk about on the DVD that talks about his technique and demonstrates what he did? Or
well, on Trailers from Hell, I did for Joe Dante. There's two discussions. One is on the Puppetoon movie, which we could show the trailer for that if you want, the Puppetoon movie trailer. I did a restoration of the movie, re-restoration, cleaned it up more. It's now on. This was the first film I made in 1987.
So that is.
And that one, that one's being streaming on. That's streaming now on Amazon, Tubi TV. Mostly, you can see it all over the place. But those where it's streaming right now. And if you want to show the trailer for that,
that's what I was going to say. Let's show the trailer. I'm sorry, it's just a few screens I have to go through to get everywhere. And that window right here. Share. Okay, I'm going to give it full screen.
Before he made Destination Moon, before he made War of the Worlds, before he made The Time Machine, George Pal made Puppetoon. Join your hosts Gumby, Pokey, and Arnie the Dinosaur as they explore the puppet animation masterpieces of George Pal. Enter the magical world of Pal and his rarely seen Academy Award-winning Puppetoons.
All right, let's swing it. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4.
Wow, that was great.
Yeah,
I don't want to play it again. Sorry. But yeah, no, that was great. Now that was the first movie you did.
That was the first,
and that came out in, I believe, 87.
1987. And for people that were younger than me, like maybe people your age or younger, that was the first time they ever saw Puppetoons before. When I was a kid, I saw them on television in black and white.
Yeah.
and they looked terrible. The quality was terrible. And when I did the film, it reintroduced the Puppetoons to the world audience. And of course, the film showed all over the world. It was showed in every major film festival. Annecy, was on the Disney Channel. It was on Showtime. It was on network television since. And I reintroduced it so people that know the Puppetoons actually know it from the Puppetoon movie, not realizing that George had made them decades before. And that was a great honor to be able to do that. And I owe a lot to Mrs. Powell for allowing me to do this, you know.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's great there. But now you have the second one coming out. Or the second one is out. The second one is out.
The second one has come out. That took 40 years to finally get done. And a lot of the people, some of the people that are watching have seen it. They have it. The reviews have been unbelievable. People are just enamored and excited by it. And that's the one in the middle. That's number 2. When you go to puppetoon.org, you can click anything. You can click the middle one, and it takes you to Puppetoon. Takes you to the second one. The first thing you can click the different places to stream the Puppetoon movie. The third one is for the funder, which we'll talk about next, for Puppetoon 3, which I'm working on now. Yeah. So it's going to be a while before 3 is out, but it's being done right now. But that's how you get to it, is basically on puppetoon.org.
Yeah, that's right. So if you go to puppetoon.org, you can get access to anything. So down here, click on either Tubi, Amazon, or Plex, and it's streaming on all of them. And
the same that takes you to the others take.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think it's great that it's up for streaming now. That's great.
Well, it took a long time. I was holding it back for a while because I wanted to get the Blu-ray released, and there had a distributor involved, and there was some conflict, and so I have it up there at the, that's the one I have. Eventually, if I live long enough, maybe I'll do a 4K restoration of the Puppetoon movie. But for now, this is the 1080 version of it. But it's very good. It's restored, and there's still. We did some refinements, restoring up before it was released to make it a little better, and it looks pretty good. So, finally people can see it, and that's great. And I'm sure they'll enjoy it very much. And then they'll be interested, hopefully, in the next one, which we're doing. To keep going.
And we'll look at the crowdfunding one in a little bit. But
sure.
But yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, it's, I love seeing this. I love, in addition to loving animation, comics, whatever, art in general, I love history. When I look at art history, I actually tend to go to as primitive as possible. That's just me. I always like going and looking back at the stuff that brought us to where we are today. So to have these available for us is fantastic.
Now, it wasn't so easy to do. I mean, first of all, a lot of the rights weren't available on some of these films. I did it, the ones I could do from Mrs. Powell back in '87 when I first did those films. But there were a lot of them that I wanted to do that weren't available. They were owned by different other studios at the time, and I tried to get them to do, but they wouldn't do it. Eventually, over the years, the Puppetoons ended up back at Paramount Pictures, where they started. And it wasn't until I got to Paramount, with a lot of politicking and diplomacy and endless pleading and begging, I was able to free them up so that we would do them. And Paramount is very much behind it, and they're helping get them done gradually. And of course, they come from the original, the ones that Paramount is helping me with, come from the original successive negatives, which are the 3-strip Technicolor negatives. They're not, some other ones I have are coming from nitrate prints, but the ones that come from the negatives, when people see those, they can't believe how gorgeous they are. We have quite a few of those on 2, and we have quite a few coming on 3 as well.
Nice. I was actually going to ask you about the process that you have to go through to to do this. I'm not even talking about the restoration, but all the, I was going to say, is there a lot of red tape behind all this, all the communication you have to, because I wasn't aware of who owns what, but I understand how companies, things get moved around, company gets bought out, this stuff goes to them, it gets hidden away, no one knows, all this stuff happens, or it just gets sold to someone else, however it works. So I was actually going to ask you about that. So thank you for, answering that earlier.
Well, it was no easy accomplishment. I know a lot of people that are working in restoration work, friends of mine, Jerry Beck and Steve Stanchfield, and a lot of other people that are doing restorations of cartoons.
Mhm.
They've been trying and struggling for years to try to get good print material from the studios, and it's been like pulling teeth. They haven't been able to in many cases. Maybe now a few things will see the light of day. Getting good material, getting it going back to the original negatives, original quality material. With the Puppetoons, I think one of the benefits of the Puppetoons is because the Motion Picture Academy and George Powell was so tied together. He was given a little bit more gravitas, I think, for some of the things he did. Because after he did the Puppetoons, he won numerous Academy Awards for his feature films in special effects. There was a total of 7 or 8 Academy Awards, and so the Academy has been very helpful in the process. They started restoring all the Oscar-nominated Puppetoons, of which I've been benefited by through Paramount, is being able to have those to use. And now we're going beyond just the Oscar-nominated ones to many other ones that haven't been preserved or seen. So I think George had it's because of George Powell, really. The heritage of Powell is like Walt Disney. I mean, I think people recognize now his importance. And I think for future generations, these are valuable assets to be seen, and they will be seen now by the Academy. We'll probably be doing shows at the Academy, but hopefully the Museum of Modern Art has been wanting to do a show for many years. I'm hoping that'll eventually happen when this pestilence is over.
Well, if you ever end up there, because it's not far from me, I will definitely be there in attendance.
I would love for it to happen. It's me. I'm the problem is me, because I'm not ready to go out into the world like a lot of people are doing. I'm still holding back.
I'm right there with you. If it wasn't out of necessity for me to basically pay my bills, I would be in my house 24/7. It's a necessity right now for me to be outside. But I take every precaution that I can.
Well, you really have to, and I certainly do. And I tell everybody, I give a lot of advice, medical advice, because I've been studying it so closely, and I think you really have to be careful. And but eventually things will turn around, and we'll be able to do shows again. I know a lot of people would like to show the films. I'm doing actually next week. I'm being interviewed. Oh my goodness, probably in a day or so. In Italy, they're showing my films at the it's one of the big Italian film festivals, Futura Festival, I think it's called, in Bologna, Italy.
Nice.
So they're showing the Fantasy Film Worlds of George Powell, my first film, and they are showing the Puppetoon movie. They licensed them both, and they want to do an interview like this for the festival. And there's a lot of people going to this. It's one of the very well-known festival. They get hundreds and if not thousands of people. And so that's happening this week, oddly enough. Now, in a different time, maybe I've been able to go to Italy or, to talk. But I think they're so interested in the Puppetoons in Italy, they want to show all of these other ones from 2 and 3. So it sounds like there's going to be more interest to do next year. And I just did one in Slovenia. Is that Czechoslovakia? I think so. Just 3 or 4 weeks ago, we did another festival. They showed the Fantasy Film World. They interviewed me. George Powell is highly recognized. England and London, there's several festivals in London they want to do. It's like a revival. It's like the Puppetoons are starting to see a new generation of people seeing them, and I think it's really quite amazing.
That's fantastic. And I like hearing that. I wish in the industry, this, uh, like with animation, with comics, whatever it is, there's specific things when people hear the term animation or they hear the term comic, especially, with comics, I'll just sidetrack to that from you think people think Superman, Spider-Man, they don't always go, they may think Peanuts or Calvin and Hobbes or whatever, but it's always like these mainstream stuff. But then when you go and you talk to people in Europe, they're not looking at Superman. They're not looking at those stuff. And I'm highly influenced by the Franco-Belgian cartoonists like Peo, who created the Smurfs, and you know, uh, I mean, he's done a bunch of stuff, but Asterix and Obelix and all those guys, like those are the things I read even as like a kid and a teen that influenced me comic wise.
Well,
And
Europeans are it's a whole different cultural
yeah,
view of animation, and they're in Annecy,
yeah,
for instance. Every year it's huge. I participated a couple of times with Puppetoons. They
yeah,
probably will do again.
mm,
They really appreciate animation. Animation is really an art form to Europeans.
yeah,
It's very different than the United States.
yeah,
And culturally, they're more culturally aware, culturally astute about the arts. And let's face it, we're a little bit of a stepchild in the United States to the Europeans,
yes,
and
I'd agree.
it's been that way in a lot of areas for many, many years. So that's just the way it is. But for me, it's a thrill to be able to talk to them, and that's sort of the most exciting thing about doing this is I'm literally doing this is a multi-continent project. I'm literally working on restorations of these films in 4 continents.
Wow.
They're being worked on in South America, in Canada, in in Russia. I have a fellow working from Moscow who's helping me and these guys are amazing talent. They have the highest level restoration equipment you can imagine. They have the best. That's what I found with this Puppetoon 3 I'm doing is that the tools that they have to do restoration far exceeds what I had on Puppetoon 2. They have all these amazing, and this equipment is very expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
they cost tens of thousands of dollars each one of these programs. And It's amazing that a lot of them have these programs. I'm doing it with the company in India that's helping me as well, and they really are amazing.
Wow.
They're so fastidious and so detailed, and they really take their time. An extraordinary amount of cleanup work that's being done at these various. I'm working with these various countries, different languages. I'm on this Zoom computer thing. I'm doing it in different languages with different people, translations. But I really actually it happened because I was doing these films were being found in Europe, and the
Yeah.
Europeans have been assisting the British Film Institute, the I Film Museum in Amsterdam, the Kinney in Germany. There's a Kinney Mathic archive. There's the ones in these various archives have been helping me. There's a fellow in Hungary, for instance, who is doing another big festival, and he's been very helpful with me. And so they've been finding films for me. That's been helping me get these things done. And there's also been connections for the restoration on a lot of these things. So actually, the pandemic has been kind of for me has been kind of interesting because I've been here doing a lot of work using the computer with people in countries all over the world. It's really the most exciting thing I've ever done. Really, I love dealing with all these people in all these foreign countries. It's so refreshing to deal with people that appreciate the arts, that appreciate all of this work.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So it's very exciting.
It sounds very exciting. Like, especially since this is a passion for you and they're helping bring your passion to life. In a moment, I wanted to show the restoration, the before and after restoration sneak peek that you have. But I did
Okay.
have one question I've been wanting to ask, because you even mentioned that if you can, you'll do a fourth one and as many as you can after. I know he's got George did, I don't even know how many cartoons, dozens, it's he what, over 100, 200, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, with everything that you had to go through to find all, the who owns the rights, how everything's on, and how old the animations are and the films are. Have you been able to find everything, or has any been lost to history somewhere? Or
Yes, there have been. Every day something new comes up. When I was on the phone with this fellow in Hungary, he actually provided me a film. I haven't even discussed any of this. This is all part of Puppetoon 3.
Mhm.
Films that have never been seen before, that are mind-boggling films, and I'm getting these 35 millimeter. They're coming out of different foreign countries, and part of it is because uh, after the war, a lot of films got confiscated by the Nazis, and a
Mhm.
lot of the films, a lot of the archives ended up in Russia. Believe it or not, they ended up in other foreign countries, and it's just now that some of these films are getting unearthed that
Yeah.
are being discovered in Europe. So, well, I forget what was your question?
No, just has any been lost? Like any?
A
Are there?
loss.
Yeah.
There is, and actually the original, the first film that George made is called Midnight,
Mhm.
and it was lost. But then it was found by a kinematic in Germany, but it's not in good condition. It's very damaged. It's so damaged that to do a restoration on it would literally take a budget that I don't have to really correct. And I'm not even sure it can be restored, honestly.
Wow.
It has sections that you can see, but
Yeah.
sections that you can't see. And right now, I don't think I'm going to be able to. It's going to have to be for a future idea to be able to restore that film. But that's an important one. And yes, there's been a number of them that haven't been, but I've been able to unearth most of the films from Europe, and certainly the ones in the United States. And so, but the European ones, I've been able to get most of them
Mhm.
in one way or another. The quality, though, for some are not as good as the ones here. They don't come from original negatives. Uh, in some cases, they do. Some cases, they're based on nitrate prints. So there's a management thing on the quality, and of course, the restoration becomes more complicated too, based on the film and what has to be done. Which is why I say it requires tools that I didn't have access to before to be able to do, in some cases, certain kinds of defects and things that exist. You need certain tools that we weren't using before,
Yeah.
and that is pretty exciting to be able to see that. So it's this has been an interesting journey to really get through all this, and we're still in the journey. I mean, it's ongoing right
Yeah.
now, so we're not done.
Yeah.
It's lots of work, and it's very, very time consuming, very labor intensive.
I can imagine.
So
Um, I do want to show the restoration. You have a 1 minute restoration clip. Um,
yeah,
from
that's
uh,
from Shoeshine Jazz.
Pine Jasper.
Yeah. Now I should say that before I say it, the cleanup work was done in India, and the color grading work is being done by just a wonderful fellow who I think has got the flu this weekend. I don't know if he in this week. I hope he's okay. He was going to check in tonight, but he may have been able to. But he's in Peru. He's in Lima, Peru, and he's been doing just wonderful color grading on these films to improve the. And we have a special procedure we do when we make it, and it has to be done in a certain way. But he's very well organized, and he's a colorist at trade.
Mhm.
He's very good. He's a young guy, and he's very enthusiastic about the Puppetoons. He's been helping enormously, and he's really color grading a lot of them for me. And it's a lot of work. So here is a section from Jasper's Shoeshine Jasper. This was the last Jasper that George made at Paramount, It was made in 1946, and there's a wonderful musical element to it. There's a wonderful fantasy to it, and it's a little reminiscent of what George did later on when he made The Wonderful World of Brothers Grimm, with the dancing shoes, both in The Wonderful World of Brothers Grimm and in Tom Thumb. This is sort of a preview of what he was going to do later in his feature films. So that's one of the reasons I happen to like this film a lot. It's really very touching fairy tale story with great music. So yeah, go ahead. You can run this one.
All right, let me give it full screen.
It's only a short clip, but
Yeah.
Make sure the volume is up.
Yep, the volume's up.
Jasper, be content with what you got. So listen, shoe-shine boy. In all the world, it's you I choose to bestow upon these golden shoes. I promise you they'll serve you well, if you but use their magic spell.
Whoops. That was a commercial starting. Sorry.
Now, what that is let me know when we're back up.
Yeah, we're both. We can hear.
That was a before and after. You really can't. It probably would have been better for the sake of. It's good for people to see it, but if they could really, I'm not sure if they could see it as clearly on my screen. I don't see it quite as well as they might be able to. But there's a before and after where there's a lot of artifacts on the before. You kind of see how they've been corrected on the after, and a little bit.
I was able to see. I think you have your screen toned down.
It's darkened down. So
yeah, darkened down because you said it was a little bright.
Right.
I have 3 different monitors that I use, and I put it. I'm showing everything on my brightest monitor.
Oh, good. It looks good.
So I really saw, and it's funny because I think I mentioned this last time. I'm colorblind. It's a really shade blindness. I see colors when they start blending. It's hard to tell. So sometimes when I look at things like this, I don't notice it. You know, but I could see, number one, the brightness in the new stuff as opposed to, but also the color popped a lot. And it wasn't just because it looked like to me they raised brightness on stuff. You can really see how the color pops.
Well, there's a lot of work involved. There's all these different levels it has to go through. There's something called luminance that's used, and then there's various color grading techniques that are used. Every film is I wish it could be the same on every film, but every film is like starting over again. It has its own individual character, the quality of the material, the print, the grain structure, the gamma that's available, the amount that the scan brought to that particular film. Some have been scanned by the Library of Congress. Some have been scanned through Paramount. And I have a bunch of them that are being now done by a fellow at the UCLA Film Archive that's doing it. Hey, Joe. And they're scanning beautifully. They're doing 2K scans, and he has a special scanner. The only one like it in the world. He's adapted. It's a special scanner. This fellow is through the help of UCLA. He's helping me do these last group of some of the Oscar-nominated Puppetoons. I'm actually redoing Puppetoons that were in the Blu-ray, that first one that came out. I've decided to re-release some of these. They're even better looking than they were before. Wow. The restorations exceed what we saw in the. I mean, people are really going to see the difference between that, even the one from several years ago and now. Yeah. So I'm actually doing that. I haven't even announced it yet. It isn't even on my funder page.
Wow. So we got a little special.
I got a little break here. There's 7 Puppetoons that I'm doing now that are the Oscar-nominated ones. and I got them all from Paramount. They've let me do them, and I'm gradually doing them one at a time. They are so unbelievable. The quality is amazing, and those are being restored now, but they've been scanned better than before. So they're going to appear on volume 3 is a lot bigger than I had originally set out to be. It was not supposed to have so much on it. I decided to make a double layer disc out of it instead of a single layer. It's going to have more room for more time. So there's actually going to be, I would say there's going to be at least 25 or 30 Puppetoons on volume 3 as opposed to volume 2. It could be nearly double. I didn't anticipate that, but I couldn't turn down the idea that I could get some of these really award-winning ones done. And it was a surprise to me that Paramount let me do it. And then it was also a surprise that UCLA and this scanning thing is allowing me to do something I wasn't able to do before. And then the restorations are being done by these amazing people in these other countries, and they are looking so incredible that I think part of it is I think UCLA wants to do a screening. They have a preservation series they do at the Billy Wilder in Westwood, and I think that I think they want to do a Puppetoon show, I believe. So this may play a part of that show. I know the Academy wants to do it, and they've already done it, but this is beyond what we ever did before. And I think that there's all leading to something really wonderful soon, in the future, be able to see all these films on the screen. And that'll be a great day when that finally happens. I'm looking forward to that, I'm telling you. But for now, for people who'd like to help, if they go to that third one there, which is Puppetoon Movie Volume 3, they can help fund the film. We've gotten donations from people from everywhere, from all over the world. They've been helping, and most amazing, incredible people. I can't thank them enough. I'm so grateful for them. People have, they've so generously been helping on this project, and they continue to do that. But I need the funding. It's not inexpensive to do. As much as I can do, the more I can get, the more I can do. And it would be great, and if people would like to contribute, they basically get a copy of it when it's done. They also get a screen credit in the film. Everyone who donates gets a credit on the film. They get the film, and it's the knowledge that they were involved in helping really a landmark historic effort that's never been done in the history of motion pictures. And so that's the wonderful thing about this. It's a first, and so it's for future generations, really. So that would be great. And when people go to this page, they can scroll down and they can see there's screen grabs of a number of the films that are being shown. You can see them. They scroll by films that are being discovered, films that I haven't updated it yet with the new some of the new films that are coming out. But they can go. The site was done by a fellow named Mark Lobo. He's a graphic artist. He's been helping me, and he did a wonderful job with the site. Just laid it out beautifully.
It looks nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, he's a very good graphic. I've got so many people from so many walks you wouldn't believe. People, I haven't even gotten all their names up on this yet because there's so many people helping me. It's very exciting and very, as I say, gratifying to have these people involved. That's Mark there.
There's Mark right here.
Oh, there's Fabio. He's the guy he's from South America. And, but I want to add, there's at least 3 or 4 more people I want to add, and I haven't been able to update it yet.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do that. But yeah, that'd be great. Wait to hear from people. And they have been contributing. I can't complain. I really can't. They've been absolutely wonderful. Nobody asked for anything. They're very patient with me. Just some remarkable people. that are in touch with me. I'm just so gratified by it. It's hard to believe, honestly. So I really appreciate everyone. I really do. I'm just saying, anyone who's watching, I really appreciate you all for what you've done so
It's
far to get this thing done.
yeah.
So,
It is,
um,
it is a really great thing that, because you're not even using a Kickstarter or Indiegogo or something. You're not giving it time. You're just having people come to the site, and when they donate, and you just give them, when it's done, you'll give them a copy and give them screen credit and all that. But I
the
think
reason
that's
I've
great.
done it that's the reason I've done it this way, Mike, is
Mm.
because I don't want to be limited by time. This way, I can let it run, and I'm not dictated by some other platform to do. Oh, you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to fit our little
Yeah.
conform to our little rules and stuff. This way, I can leave it there. People come to it, and I much prefer it this way. And so that's the way I've done it, and it's been pretty good so far. But yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were saying.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No one's here to listen to me. They're here for you. So,
Now, if you want to show the, no, what else do we have that needs?
well, I just wanted to show this real quick, but I wanted to. Joe Ryan made a comment. Sorry, I'm late. Don't be sorry, Joe. This will be able to be replayed at any time, as many times as you want to rewatch it. YouTube, Facebook, you'll be able to go. You know where to find it. He's a regular viewer and great guy.
Right.
I wanted to show just the puppetoon.net real quick, where they can go to purchase. And you currently have a sale for $31.95 plus shipping, right?
It's a holiday sale.
It's
I
the
may leave it. I
holiday.
may even leave it longer. It's free shipping.
Yeah.
I'm also on Amazon. I'm on Amazon as well as here.
Yeah.
I'm widely distributed through all over the internet now with one of the major distributors, and it's getting a lot of attention. And they can't wait for Puppetoon 3. Everybody wants it, and I think part of it are the reviews that have been coming in. The reviews, if you go to Amazon, and by the way, I suggest anyone who wants to they can put a review here on puppetoon.net, or they can go to Amazon and just write your reviews. But so far, the reviews have been so glowing that I think the distributors are very impressed by that.
Yeah.
It's got 5 stars on both, of course.
That's fantastic. I mean,
so we see what people have to say about it. It's amazing. But it's on Amazon. It's a couple of dollars more on Amazon, but it doesn't matter. Some people like to buy on Amazon for whatever reason. I'm fine with it. Wherever they want to get it, it's fine with me. Even if they want to pay a few dollars more, it's up to them.
Well, I'm one of those people. I buy a lot through Amazon. I just got a package today, actually.
That's great. It's been great. It's been great to be there. It's great to have the support. And one of the distributor I'm working with is one of the big box distributors that does. They literally distribute 750,000 films and CDs. They do Disney, they do Warner Brothers, they do every major studio, and they're the guys that distribute everything. And awesome. They said they wanted to do it. It was really amazing that they said they wanted to do the Puppetoons. So that was pretty impressive, I think. So me and I'm in a good league of people.
Yeah, you're up there.
And TCM did a very nice review on it too. If you go to tcm.com and movie news, it's been running for a long time. I didn't send it to you, but TCM has been doing they have a wonderful story running on the Puppetoons now.
Nice.
And we're probably going to do. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but we're going to do it. I'm hoping to do another live show because I was on TCM with Ben Mankiewicz a couple of years ago with the Puppetoon movie. We did a 2-day George Pal tribute, and they showed my films and they showed his the Time Machine and some of his other feature films. And I'm hoping to do another talk on the Puppetoons. And I know that they want to do something at the festival, the Turner Classic Movie Festival, which I've already been to already. But again, because of the pandemic, even though they're going to have it next year, I'm not ready for it. So I probably wouldn't be till a year later that I might do it. But that's okay. It gives me more time to finish more Puppetoons.
Yeah.
So I don't mind waiting. But it's getting the rounds. It's getting the attention of a lot of people, which is very important. And it's about time, really. I mean, it's literally taken me half my, I would say, pretty well close to 40 years of my life to get to this place. So I think it's it's a very worthwhile trip for me.
That's great. We're gonna wrap up in a moment. I still have a few different things we haven't shown. Is there anything you want to watch? Like any trailer you want me to play that we haven't shown yet? Or
Well, you can show I'm very involved in the Time Machine. I mean, for those that are left even watching this now,
yeah.
a lot of people might know that I did the remake of the Time Machine in
In
2002 with Steven Spielberg
Mhm.
and DreamWorks. This is the remake. You can show that trailer. You can
Okay.
show if you want to show the original, that's the original
Let's
Time
show the original, and then we'll show the
and show the
update.
remake. I did the remake, and then it was based on the original,
All right.
which
I will give.
and we're doing another one too.
Oh,
Another one coming.
nice. Let me give this full screen, and let's find out where my mouse is. Make sure it's all the way at the back.
It took the creative magic of George Pell and the fabulous production know-how of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer to catapult you through time into a world that is yet to be.
Why is it that we usually ignore the fourth dimension? You see, we can move in the other three. As the doctor said, up, down, forwards, backwards, sideways. But when it comes to time, we are prisoners.
Inventor Rod Taylor's breakthrough into the realm of the fourth dimension is defied by his friend Alan Young.
If that machine can do what you say it can, destroy it, George, before it destroys you.
Every moment is a year, hurtling through the atomic wars of the future on an incredible excursion into the unknown. What are the people like? Ah, the shape of things to come. It's lovely Yvette Mimieux. And what happens when boy meets girl thousands of years hence?
How do they wear their hair?
Who?
The women of your time?
Up like that?
Show me.
Is this the human race of the future? Or is this the Morlocks, fiendish creatures who live in a weird underground world? And the Eloi, the tranquil sunshine people, who the Morlocks dominate and maintain like cattle, luring them below with the hypnotic wail of the sirens, to feed upon them in cannibalistic horror.
Nice.
So that was the Time Machine. Well, that's a whole show unto itself.
Oh, totally. I got to tell you though, first of all, I loved what I saw. I miss trailers like that. I was never around for trailers like that, but when I get to see like the old time trailers, it's just so much fun. I think it's sometimes more exciting. You know, it builds it up more than the newer stuff we see today. So I love that there. I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Did I interrupt you?
I was going to say there are shows in themselves. I mean, each one of these things, I can each feature film that George made is a show unto itself. Yeah. I did the I don't know if I can see you right now. I must have.
Oh, don't worry. We're still there.
I was just responding to somebody sending me a message. Each film has a whole history to itself. It's too much to talk about. I did a showing of War of the Worlds at the theater. There's a Fox Tucson theater down here where I am. We did that. We literally had almost 2,000 people come to the theater. I was a guest of the University of Arizona and did an introduction to the film. We just showed the first restoration that had just come out of War of the Worlds. And you wouldn't believe people were coming all those people came out to see the movie. There has to have been at least 1,500 easily people there. It gets a huge crowd. And they said it was one of the most successful shows they've done. So when I show War of the Worlds, The Time Machine, when they do these kinds of things, people do come. I mean, there's huge fan base for these films. This is the remake I did. This was in 2002 with Guy Pearce and Jeremy Irons, and with DreamWorks and Warner Brothers. So this is the trailer for that one.
Yeah, this is. Let me just bring it back to
story and a half.
What?
Each one of these is another hour story. So
yeah,
we don't have
that's for another show, definitely.
We don't have time for it now.
Yeah. Well, let's watch this here.
His ideas were ahead of his time.
It's your first year as associate professor. You might want to play things a little more conservatively. You sound just like my father.
His discovery.
Nothing will ever change.
You're wrong. Because I will change it. Would take him there.
Time travel.
I'm from the past.
Why have you traveled through time?
Now, the machine that will journey to the future. My ancestors survived here for millennia.
This is a perversion of every natural law.
Is the only thing
Please, you don't know.
that can help him save it.
This is the world. How can you just do nothing?
For you, the question 800,000 years of evolution. From Warner Brothers Pictures and DreamWorks Pictures, the most extraordinary adventure of all time. The Time Machine. I am your future.
Wow, that was fantastic. That was just. Let me bring us back down here. Yeah, that really was great. I've seen both movies and both versions of the movie. I got to say, as a kid, you know, the older one, the Morlocks scared the hell out of me. I think with age and special effects and understanding stuff, the more modern one that you worked on, they weren't as scary. They were creepy, but they weren't as scary. The original Morlocks, man, those guys gave me nightmares.
They did for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
They were designed. William Tuttle did the makeup for those,
Mm-hmm.
and he did a great. He's in my film on George Powell, the Fantasy Film Worlds. He's passed away a number of years. He was a great MGM makeup artist, and as is Alan Young and Rod Taylor, who I knew, who are also in the film. And it's a long history of people that were involved, and it's a story and a half. I can talk. Time Machine is a big topic for me, and I certainly talk about it quite a bit. And I like to discuss all of his pals movies. Each one has its own special wrinkle, its own special story, and it's an epic. It's epic, really. So it's just so many. There's so much to it. I just do the best I can in the time allotted, and I'm happy to go through these things. And I think there's a show coming up. I'm going to be doing another show with another fellow who does these kinds of things. He's been running kind of a series of shows on George Powell. His name is Stu Shostak. Maybe some of you people know. He has a series of shows. He's got a pretty big audience. And I did a part one with him last year. I'm going to do another one in January. And I'm also going to be on Jerry Beck in December on his show as well. So that's coming up as well. And he wants to talk about all these things in great detail. You know, he's a big George Powell fan like you are,
Mhm.
and he wants to go into great detail on all these things. And so it's very exciting. It's very exciting overall. So I do appreciate your time to do this. I hope we got a few people here that
Yeah,
were
I think
interested.
we had there were a few people that I think are interested. I want to end though by showing re-showing the trailer for Volume 2.
Okay, good.
So I was just setting that up. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm looking down or I'm looking other direct. It's just the different monitors where I have stuff on. Um, so it wasn't like, I'm not paying attention or anything.
I understand.
So let me give you this here, and we'll start. And we'll end with this.
Good.
And let's hit play.
Announcing the return of the Puppetoons. Before he made the time machine in the War of the Worlds, Oscar winner George Pal made Puppetoons. Dazzling stop-motion animated shorts that astounded the world. Now, Puppetoons not seen in generations are back, fully restored from their original Technicolor negatives. So journey back to that time of magic and wonder with special appearances by Bugs Bunny and Superman. The Puppetoon Movie Volume 2 is a release that's got everybody excited. Order yours today at puppetoon.net.
Nice. And you know what? I love the announcer on that. How he has that old timey. Everything is just like perfect the way you put this together. It's
He's a Disney voice fellow.
Oh,
and I forgot to mention there's so many different names along the way. I can't remember. My original trailer had Dick Tufeld, by the way, who did my other trailer. That was the first one. And Dick did the voice for the Lost in Space robot, Danger, Mr. Robinson. He was the original voice of Disneyland on the Disneyland show. Disneyland, Walt Disney. I mean, now the original 1950s show, Dick did that. He's one of the great voice men. And this one too. So my mind is a little. I'm losing my memory this evening. I can't remember everybody's name. But that's yeah. And the third one, I'm hoping to do something similar. I'm trying to work on the style, the retro style of it, something similar to Volume 2. It'll be something somewhat similar to that.
Well, you're definitely hitting it. It's nice. I like it.
Well, great. I'm glad you appreciate it.
And I'm a fan of all like the old timey stuff anyway. So that's like my favorite.
That's great.
Things. So, but I think we're going to wrap up. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I want to let the audience know, first off, make sure you go to puppetoon.org where you could purchase Puppetoon Volume 2 and you could donate to Volume 3 as well.
It makes a great holiday gift, by the way, for the holidays. People are buying it for their friends. Even people that bought it already, they're buying it for their friends because it's a good gift to make. So
I think it's fantastic. It's going to be one of my purchases hopefully very soon. I've been wanting it for a while. I just like I said, the reason I go out is to pay bills. So sometimes that has to come first, but I really love what you're doing, what I'm seeing. It excites me. It makes me actually want to animate and not go to my day job. And
you should continue doing what you're doing because you have great. I've seen a lot of Mike's work. By the way, everyone out there, his drawings are fabulous.
Thank you.
He's got a wonderful sense of humor. He does the kind of animation I like, which is that has a comedy element to them or satire, and he's really there to entertain, to make people laugh. And so what I like about what he's doing is that kind of style. So maybe we'll get to do something together, Mike.
Maybe I'd be happy to. Anyway, I'm going to let you drop backstage. Thanks again for coming on. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Great.
We should chat more, even when we're not doing airtime stuff. I really just enjoy chatting. So
that'd be great.
but thanks again for coming on, and I'll talk to you in a moment. All right.
See you. Bye bye.
All right, guys. That was fun for me. Like I said, I'm really inspired. I feel like I should just be animating right now. Seeing George's work is always gorgeous and a pleasure, and seeing it restored and seeing the difference in the restoration was awesome for me. I didn't get to watch that video until tonight, actually, so it was really cool to see live. But yeah, you guys go to puppetoon.org. And I forgot to mention, actually, he stepped away. There is a Facebook page for Puppetoon. So you can look up the Puppetoon Facebook page as well, and see all the updates there and stuff. It's pretty cool. So you guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back next week with another guest. I had a great time. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and go order Puppetoons and watch it streaming too. Watch the first one streaming. I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.